And welcome to today's top story. One of the top stories that we've been following very closely, actually, for the last, at least a month or so, and prior to that, but more specifically in the last 4 weeks or so, is minimum wage, because the Liberal government provincially had decided that there would be an increase, and then by January of this year, or of 2019, they had anticipated increasing it again to $15 an hour. That has been rescinded, taken away, rejected, canned by the current Doug Ford government. So a lot of people have, as we said, yes, last week when we talked to Rory Ring with the Chamber of Commerce here in Sault Ste. Marie, a lot of people seem to be very on one side or the other when it comes to this issue. And obviously, the Chamber of Commerce, concerned with business in Sault Ste. Marie, they are definitely thinking that this is a good thing, that it's going to stop as of right now. Mike McEwen is with 15 in Fairness, and he thinks that the repeal of Bill 148 is not a good thing, and not just because of minimum wage. Mike, good to see you. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Yourself?
Good, good. Thanks so much. So tell me about 15 in Fairness. First of all, let's start there. What is 15 in Fairness?
It's a movement that basically standing up for not just minimum wage, but workers' rights in Ontario. So making sure that we have what are essentially very basic protections in place to make sure that we can maintain a thriving and healthy workforce.
Now, what does it do for an organization like yourself when the Provincial Chamber of Commerce and then, of course, the local Chamber of Commerce come out and endorse the exact opposite?
Our main goal was really spreading awareness and getting people talking about it, because I think a lot of people, well, I know a lot of people don't pay a lot of attention to politics, and workers' rights, I think, is something historically we've taken for granted. So we've had to fight for basically every right that we have in the Employment Standards Act, whether it's maternity leave or 40-hour work week, and even our 2 paid sick days off that we have right now. So raising awareness about that and the implications of removing those provisions that we currently have under Bill 148, and why we as a working class should be standing up against it and letting our elected officials know why it's not good for us.
So it's interesting because you have a different perspective in a way, because I think when a lot of us hear about the minimum wage not changing, that's our main focus. But like you said, it involves a whole bunch more. But let's talk about the actual money. That's a fair amount of money that is not going to come to minimum wage workers now.
It is. I think for the average worker working 37 and a half hours, it comes up to just under $2,000 annually. Now, there are some things that are going to be offered to us, like tax cuts. According to the most recent CRA data, those workers earned or paid $400 in taxes annually, so that's not a whole lot of money when you compare it to the $2,000. And then two-thirds of people earning less than $3,000 or $30,000 annually didn't even pay income tax. So that tax cut they're not going to see.
Right. It's like, how is that going to help me on a annual basis, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think one of the pro stopping Bill 148 is from the business community, in that they sort of focus a lot on people who are working part-time or who are students, but there are people out there who are working full-time jobs trying to make ends meet on minimum wage.
That's true. There was a study done in 2015, it was on TVO, showed that in some cities in Ontario, I think the lowest living wage, which is substantially higher historically than the minimum wage, was $14 an hour. And I think it was in Windsor, two parents had to work full-time jobs earning $16 an hour in order to make ends meet, according to local financial.
Right. Cost of living and rent and all of that good stuff, right? So after we move on from talking about the wage and that being, I think, the focus of a lot of us, you mentioned that there are really things that workers are going to be essentially ripped off of.
Yeah, the thing that sticks out to me the most is the sick days. A lot of people are attacking the paid sick days. Like, we shouldn't have to pay people to be off sick. There are studies. San Francisco was the first city in the United States to actually implement paid sick days for their employees, and what they found is they had a more productive work base. Employees were calling in less, and that's because they could take time to, preventative health care, more or less, and take care of themselves. I mean, the same as it's the same locally. Those paid sick days, we can use them to take a day off to go to a doctor's appointment when we need to, or if we're sick with the flu, rest. Because most of the minor illnesses, it's just self-care. And if you don't have the time to take care of yourself, you don't have the time to go to work healthy, really.
And you know what, it's interesting because the healthcare system, of course, get your flu shot, take care of yourself. If you're sick, don't go to work. You're going to make everybody else sick. But then in the meantime, a lot of people feel like they don't have the choice. They have to go to work sick.
That's exactly it. And only giving us 3 sick days now, all unpaid, it's going to make people feel like they have no choice but to go into work. And one flu can use up those 3 sick days, and then you're stuck making the decision, do I want to take the day off to take care of myself, or do I want to potentially face discipline at work? And then on top of that, they're also allowing employers to ask for doctor's notes now, which forces more people into emergency rooms and walk-in clinics, which are
busy enough as it stands. 10 personal emergency days. What's defined as an emergency day?
An emergency day would be, having to take care of a family responsibility. You have a sick kid, you're sick yourself, something like a car accident or something like that. Stuff like that would mostly be. And
then bereavement days too?
The bereavement days too. Those, I don't know if those are currently paid. I believe they are. So right now they're reducing the 10 emergency leave days that we have under the ESA and replacing them with 3 sick days, 2 bereavement days, and 3 family responsibility days, all unpaid.
All unpaid?
Yeah.
So again, your parent dies and you can't even feel the grief of that and make arrangements in 3 days. And you have to do it and take those days without pay.
Yeah, it makes it a lot harder. The grieving process can be long for some people and hard to deal with, and then to feel like you don't have space to really take care of what you need to take care of personally. Because I know, like, if I had a close family member to die that passed, I wouldn't be going into work 100%.
No.
Not even close.
No. And I think that has so much to do with productivity, right?
Yeah.
If you feel healthy, if you feel like your boss cares about you, if you feel like your employer is taking steps to at least help you in your life, you're going to be a better employee,
Absolutely. And if you feel like your employer is going to invest in you, it's going to reduce attrition, and which ultimately reduces recruiting costs for companies. And I'm not going to want to call in sick for a company that goes to bat for me and is willing to give me those sick days. And that's just me personally, though. I mean, it varies from person to person.
Right, absolutely. Allowing employers to cancel shifts with no notice, that's huge.
That is. There's 2 sides to that too. So they're allowed to cancel shifts with no notice, and they're also allowed to make last-minute shift changes and penalize the employee for not actually going in for those. So,
how do they penalize them?
Discipline at work. You can maybe be put on a warning. That's really unclear. I think it's a company policy at that point.
Maybe they don't schedule them for shifts.
Yeah, which is huge. We have a student population of almost 8,000 people here, and I don't think students should have to choose between going in for a last-minute shift change or studying, or a single parent. I mean, childcare is expensive. So
absolutely.
If you don't have a sitter, you're forced to decline that shift. And one thing I asked that wasn't actually clarified is, if you decline a shift to take care of your child, is that considered a family responsibility day?
Right.
Because you're technically declining a work responsibility for
a family responsibility.
Yeah.
And what was the answer?
I didn't get one.
You didn't get one.
Yeah.
So in that light, do you feel like your government officials are listening to you? I mean, you know, we talk about Doug Ford all the time, but he's like way in Toronto.
Yeah.
He's far away.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's anything you can do at your level? Can you talk to people? Do you feel well represented?
Honestly, not really.
No.
No. I had to put a lot of pressure to get a meeting. And my main concern is that we weren't consulted as a working class community. When I talked to Ross Romano, he said that he had a lot of meetings with people in the community, but I don't think there were a lot of working class people that were part of those meetings, and a lot of people that I spoke to just didn't even know the bill was a thing. So I think representing a town full of working class citizens like Sault Ste. Marie, we deserve to be engaged when it comes to something that's going to impact us this much.
Well, and we're such a labor-intensive city, which has so many ripple effects. Thankfully, that's what makes us a successful city.
Yeah.
But you need to maintain these employees.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're a hardworking town, and I think protecting the workers will keep the hard workers in this town. And same with the students. We have a couple of really good schools here, and one thing I thought about, and that I think it should be a concern, is that students are going to look at the labor laws and like possibly go to different provinces because they don't have to worry about making those choices. And then we already face a huge youth out-migration problem in Sault Ste. Marie. So if these people are considering like better labor laws in different provinces, then that's not going to do us any good either.
And we have a fair share of international students too in Sault Ste.
true,
Marie,
yeah.
especially at the university and college level. So that might affect their decision to stay and become Canadians.
Yeah, the international students or immigrants in general are actually more likely to be the workers that are either put into like precarious work roles, whether like working contract positions or part-time, or to be taken advantage of and put into some sort of misclassification when it comes to work. And the Bill 47, you're not allowed to misclassify workers anymore, but they put the onus on the worker to prove that they're not being misclassified now, whereas before it was on the worker or the employer to show that.
Right, so you're working and you're trying to make ends meet. Now they want you to prove that.
Yeah.
If there's anything we can do, if we have concerns like you do, what do you think our options are?
Talk about it. I think one of the biggest challenges we have, not just as a community, but even as a country, is that we're so divisive. Politics has become so partisan that people aren't willing to look at the issue that's actually hurting us the most. They'll look at it as a conservative or as a New Democrat, or I support the Green Party or whatever it is. And workers' rights, something like that, shouldn't be a partisan issue, because I go to work regardless of what I support. And if we can get people looking across party lines and discussing what needs to be taken care of as a community, then we can approach, Ross Romano in this case, and as a community, and tell them, I don't care if you're PC or what party you support, we're your constituents and we expect you to do this. Yeah.
And of course, if we start to come together on this issue, maybe, who knows, we'll get together on a lot of others too.
Well, it's more productive, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, best of luck. Thanks so much for coming in, Mike. I appreciate your perspective.
Thank you.
We're going to take this break. We'll be right back.